moved to Taiwan with my mother-in-law actually earlier in 1949 and began trying to make a business of his own. In Taiwan, he was expected in a traditional family to support all of his siblings. He had two sisters who came to Taiwan and they were married, but their husbands could not find a job. So he was expected to support his sisters, sister children, sister's husband, his mother, his own family, and he was a civil servant and he couldn't make a go of it. So at the time in 1950, as the Korean War was about to start in Korea, the United States, who at one point was about to abandon Chiang Kai-shek in Taiwan and let mainland Chinese eventually just take over the island, decided to make Taiwan a military base for their containment of Red China at the time in the Pacific area. As a result, a huge amount of U.S. aid, AID, came into China and the money poured in to build out infrastructure and industry in Taiwan. So my father-in-law heard about it and went to this government bureau where they were literally passing out projects. Like, do you want a cement project? Here's a project, here's money, here's a know-how, go and do it. So he and a friend went and applied for a license to start a cement factory. He figured, well, I don't know anything about industry, but breaking rocks into powder can't be that hard. Unfortunately, the cement license was already taken. And the guy was passing out these projects saying, well, I've got something called plastics left, do you want it? And my father said, what's plastics? And this is like early 1950s, and the guy said, I don't know, but if we don't want it, that's all we have. So my father said, I'll take that. So we turned this contract for plastics, got together with some engineers, took my mother-in-law with him to Germany for a whole month of touring because plastics industry was very developed in Germany in the early 1950s. And my mother remembered that he would took sketchbooks, and of course he brought these engineers with him because he, as you know, was a railroad management person, and they were sketching out how these plastic producing machines would fit into each other pieces, and then he would buy second-hand machinery from Germany, import them back to Taiwan, and start a plastics industry. And what he did was to take natural gas and crude oil, and then create these raw pellets, these little pieces of plastic that eventually you send to downstream factories that then mold them into computer cases today, or pipes or rooftops and stuff like that. And my mother-in-law said, well, the first days went very well. These plastic the machines came to Taiwan, they fit them together, and they produced a huge amount of PVC, polyvinyl chloride pellets, and other things, polyethylene P and polypropylene. But then there was no outlet for it. And so she said, we watched these warehouses stacked full of bags of plastic pellets, and there was no way to sell them, and we were just watching our money disappear, we're all going to starve. And so he then went to Japan and bought these molding machines that actually put these, under high temperature, put these plastic pellets into the machines, and out came these plastic jellies, those shoes that you wear to the beaches. And in Taiwan, in those days, there were many people who didn't have shoes, couldn't afford leather shoes, or just didn't have shoes. So plastic shoes sold very well as corrugated boards to make roofs. So you have plastic roofs, you have plastic shoes, and other plastic uses, those toys for beaches and plastic tablecloths all came about, and that saved his industry. And then finally, he was doing all of this with some partners. And then one of the partners, my father-in-law, when this partner split, and the partner who now runs Formosa Plastics, actually who's deceased, the previous owner of Formosa Plastics, began with my father-in-law in the same project. And eventually there were some differences of opinion, they split, and then this particular person said that if I can't have T.T. Chao, my father-in-law, on my team, I am going to drive them out of business. So for a while, whatever my father-in-law was charging a pound of plastic pellets, that person would reduce it by half, and basically nearly destroyed my father-in-law's business. But again, fortune intervened in the sense that American companies came to Taiwan looking for partners. And since my father-in-law spoke Japanese as well as some English, he was tapped by the Chinese government, so the Kuomintang, to go and talk to these partners. So he quickly signed a contract with Mobile Oil Chemicals, with Mattel Barbie dolls, with other American companies, and that basically, again, allowed him an outlet. And so this is how he began his business. And then when I married my husband got his MBA and was expected eventually to go back and work for his father. So after we got married, my husband moved around the States, being trained by different companies who would partner with my father-in-law's business, and then eventually went back to Taiwan and worked with his father. And so in the 1980s, we came to Houston. My husband and his brother basically were doing business for their father in Houston. And today, even the company that my husband runs, the Westlake Chemical, is still the derivative of the original company that my father-in-law started. So in Houston, I began as a homemaker. My children were quite young. It was very important for us to get them into the right schools, and so they went into a private school here called St. John's. And that kind of began, and I didn't know many people then, but one way of making friends is when your children are at school and you make friends with the parents of your children's friends, and that's how you got people in the community. And I think I was talking earlier to Sophie that you were curious about how I got all these different board positions. One thing you do as a parent in schools in America especially is to be involved in your children's school activities. So if the school wanted you to help with a bake sale, the school wanted to help with a car wash, you just kind of volunteered and you met more like-minded parents, and then sooner or later they'd ask you to join certain committees, and then from one thing to another. So my first board position literally is on the St. John's board. And as a board member, they give you a handbook. Like, what do you do as a trustee of an organization? And I always remember that book that I read pretty well, cover to cover, since that was my first board position, is that there's something called 3 W's as a board member. There is, you can contribute wisdom, you can contribute wealth, or you can contribute work. So basically, any organization needs a board member to help strengthen the organization, maybe broaden its mission, broaden its reach. So if you are, let's say, a lawyer, and you can contribute pro bono work to the organization, you have contributed wisdom. If you can raise money or personally give money, then of course you help that organization do whatever it needs to do. And then the other is work. There are lots of volunteer activities that you have to do. And it's very much like what the coordinators of these organizations do. You strengthen the organization, you bring people in, and you're trying to make it grow bigger and bigger. So from there on, from St. John's board, once you go to board members, you very quickly know more people in the community. And then when other organizations need board members, very often you tap people you already know. So from there I went to the Houston Ballet board, and from there to the Alley Theater board, and on Teach for America. And now the recent board memberships that I'm on are the Houston Endowment, the Houston Public Library Foundation, and I'm still on the St. John's board. This is my 14th year on the board. And then other committees that are involved with